All right, so trying to film towards my workbench, and the lighting just would not let me. So for now, my backdrop's gonna have to be my wonderful aquariums. So, anyways, just wanted to share some things, some hacks, if you will, that a low-budget skateboarder can use to make their stuff last longer or to adapt things. Hold on just a second, let me pull something out here. There's that and that. So, might be a little bit of a long film, but two of the things that I use the most is shoe goo and JB Weld. I'll start with JB Weld. This skateboard was given to me by my buddy Keith at Wheel Bike Be Success, and I had not had it. I think I was on my second session at the skate park, and I did a drop in and was leaning too far back. It slipped out from under me, went across the skate park, and hit the upright for a flat bar, and it crunched that nose up. I mean, it made a big old chip right here, and crunched the nose up like this. Very much upset me. And you know, it was not a very old board. He gave it to me because he didn't like the way it, I guess the shape or whatever, he was just over it. But anyways, and I was not about to let it keep that chip, because this has been a really good board for me. This was my first Heroin skateboard, so I was anxious to keep going with it. So anyways, what I did was JB Weld, mixed up a batch of it. You just use an old piece of paper to pour it out, mix it up. I used a screwdriver, dabbed it all down inside there, took two pieces of metal and two of my vice grips and clamped it down really hard and flattened it back out, and it has held to this day. I also use JB Weld on my tails. You know, you tend to get a little bit of razor tail, but what bothers me is when the razor tail is off to one side because of the way our feet are. The toes push down harder than the rest of our feet. So I like to put a little bit on there. I have a kind of a spreader type thing, and I will put it on there. Then I will spread along this way, and then spread along that way, and it spreads it out and also flattens it, and it looks pretty darn good. And it does not affect my pop. It does not affect my nose and tail slides. So there is that. And then there is shoe goo. Shoe goo is your friend. If you are a skateboarder, shoe goo is your friend. Mostly what people have used it for the longest time is you end up tearing up your shoes big time. And of course you can take that shoe goo, put it on there. It's best to do it before you start tearing up your shoes. It's not that great at putting it back together once it's all tore up. But once you know, if you're a good skateboarder, you know where your shoes tear up. And you just put a nice bit of that on there, and it will protect you. You can use shoe goo, you can use plumber's goop. E6000 works pretty good. Regular silicone really doesn't stick that well. I mean, it's okay, but it tends to pull off and it's too soft. So anyways, if you're one who breaks his shoelaces all the time, douse those shoelaces before they start getting broke up. Douse them in shoe goo. I've got some gloves that are starting to wear. They've got some holes there, and then the laces have come off of this extra part right here on the side, and it's starting to flip up. I just took some shoe goo, put down, and then smoothed it on there. For a while there, my youngest son was really falling a lot and scraping up the sides of his pads. And so I would shoe goo because I couldn't keep up with it as far as sewing them back up. The shoe goo will protect them. It doesn't look the greatest, but it works. So there you have it with that. Shoe goo is definitely your friend. And then here's another item that I've done. I will combine both shoe goo and plastic. One of the things that I make out of leftover plastic is riser pads. So every once in a while you get I know some of you don't even use riser pads, but us old guys know the benefit of them. And I would use riser pads. I would use, this was a discarded trash can. That was next to the road. And I would use that extra plastic to make riser pads. Not that difficult. But also, like I said, my friend gave me this board. These rails are just too low down to the board. And now that I'm not as scared of board slides anymore. I'm starting to practice them a good bit. And because these rails are so low, the middle of the board is contacting and it's slowing me down. Even with a good bit of wax on there, it's too slow. So what I did was I took some of this extra plastic, cut pieces, and to put underneath these rails. I pulled the rails up, put that down, screwed it in. Now, of course, that means that those screws are not going to clamp it down quite as hard as before. So what I did was I coated these things when I put them underneath the rails. I coated them front and back with shoe goo. And because, I mean, these are old rails, they match this board, they're going to stay on this board. I'm not going to be pulling them back off. So, you know, when this board gets used up or whatever, these will stay with the board. And and it is nice and solid. Okay, if you have screws, every once in a while I will screw in one of the screws for my rails, and it just won't quite grab in and it feels like it's stripped out. Coat that sucker in shoe goo, screw it back in, and it will be nice and tight. That's another thing you can use. Little things that you can do if you're an old guy like me that has a fixed income. You know, this channel's not monetized. I'm not likely to get it monetized with my all of 110 subscribers. So I don't have any extra income coming in, and I gotta make things go as long as possible, and that's how I do it. I make my own ledge wax, curb wax, out of candles and beeswax, and I dye them myself with RIT dye. Just anything that I can do to make sure that things last a little bit longer. Like I said, using JB Weld on the tail of my boards to make them last a little bit longer. Using JB Weld to repair chips and anything along the sides of the boards. Just to keep that little bit more life in what I have, because times are tough. Now, as we're talking about, subscribers and being monetized and doing a YouTube channel, I just witnessed something the other day that kind of bothered me. One of my favorite YouTubers that I watch on a regular basis, he's got enough subscribers that people just send him stuff. It must be nice. But he's already, he's got walls and walls of skateboards and parts and whatever. He's got everything he could ever want. But he keeps getting more because he tests things, and he's a good skater. So anyways, this person out of the blue he wasn't a manufacturer or a shop guy or anything like that. He just realized he had 2 boards and he only needed one, and he wanted the other one to be used. So he sent it to this YouTuber. Probably, if I had to guess, if somebody sends you something, if you are an influencer or a YouTuber, they send it to you so you can use it. They want to see you use it. And this YouTuber just took a look at it, and it was a longboard. It wasn't really his normal thing to skate in the first place. Although he does have longboards, and he has bombed hills with those longboards. And pretty much that's what the guy said in his letters. He wanted to see him bomb a hill with this board. He sent him a brand new, beautiful board. And he took a look at it and said, I think there's a place on my wall that I can put it up. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Maybe in the future I might put it together. But to me, I think that was kind of rude. If somebody sends you something, use it. Use it on your channel. Let them see it. Let other subscribers or other people see that you used it. Just like this. My friend Keith, he did not have a use for this board, and it was a nice board. As you can see, he gave it to me. I am using it. This is actually one of my favorite boards to ride right now. It's especially for curb work. This is one of my favorites. It's especially good as far as nose and tail slides go. It's really making it easy for me to relearn nose and tail slides. And I guess I was kind of taught growing up, if somebody gives you something, you don't just put it in a closet and leave it there. Now there are times when people will give you something that, I've got two decks up on my wall in my living room right now that were given to me by my friend Keith. And basically he told me, he said, they're so nice that if you want to hang them on the wall, I understand. One of them is signed Lucero, and the other is a Tony Hawk, one of the old school Tony Hawks, like what I had back in the day. He said, I understand, and that's cool. Now, I may end up using them, I may not, but that's different. This YouTuber I'm talking about, there have been people who sent him stuff that, it was not with the intention that he used it. It was going to be part of his collection. That I understand. But this guy specifically sent this board to the YouTuber, you know, I thought that you could get some use out of it because I've got 2 of them and I don't need 2 of them. You know, I'd love to see you bomb a hill with it or whatever. And so, and this YouTuber, I have a lot of respect for him, but I have seen him over the past, you know, I've gone back in his YouTube videos 3 years, and he can be a bit selfish and self-serving, and he will make choices that are actually quite rude to other people, and I believe in that. I believe that was rude. So if perchance anybody ever sends me anything, I will endeavor to use it on this channel to get good use out of it if I can, and I will endeavor in any way possible to make sure I can use them. So anyways, with that, just a few hacks. Like I said, a few hacks to, I've got a set of aviation snips that I use to cut my plastic with. That is important. You need something that will cut this plastic easy. As you can see, I did not cut these very even. I've gotten better over time to be able to cut this stuff better. This is actually a pretty darn good job. As far as these spacers or whatever you want to call it that I use to raise these rails with. So it does take practice. You may ruin stuff and have to do it over again. Trial and error. But you know, get in there and fabricate some stuff. I grew up, you know, my dad, we weren't poor, but there were times where he felt like we didn't need to spend the money on things. We had a tractor and we had a garden, and of course I hated that garden, but when he bought the tractor, he just bought a couple of basic implements. He bought a plow and a bush hog, and he just looked at it and said, you know what, everything else I can build myself. And he looked at his steel pile and got his welder out, and he made some rakes and harrows and stuff by himself, and I watched him do that stuff. You know, he never would really teach me to fabricate things, but I've learned by watching him, and I have fabricated a lot of things over time that normally people would just go out and buy. This culture of just throw it away and go buy new, it's expensive, and wow, life is expensive. So you gotta ease up on buying new things somewhere, and if this can help your budget, I hope it can. So God bless you. Peace out.